aka Bullets, YouTube channel.
Hurry up, now tell us why you're here.
Mark Carton starts at pole position for the second race, but this race was quite boring, so Rusty Wheelhouse wins this race. But next race is less boring because Chick Hicks crashes Aiden Blocker and Owen Drivewell, who will now be out for the season! And Chick Hicks will be suspended for 5 races for it. Clint Shiftright would start at pole position for the third race, but nothing much happens until Jeremy Carfield goes airborne on lap 279 because Paunchy Wipeout bumped into him, who's bumped into by Dale Earnhardt! Why? But then, Davey Carlson would almost win the third race, but in the end, he would lose to Larry Smith, who would win the third race. Larry Smith would come second in the qualification for the fourth race. The pole sitter is Rusty Wheelhouse. And now, Krusty Rooter is out for 11 races because he slammed to the wall really hard that lap. The King would end up taking the lead and leading for 403 of the 500 laps of the race. And Larry Smith would win the fourth race. Not the King, but besides. Dale Earnhardt would start at pole position for the fifth race. But then, wait, what happens next? Dale Earnhardt would lead for 327 laps out of the 500. The only other car who led in the race was Darryl Draggart, who only led for 23. And of course Dale Earnhardt wins the fifth race. A few days before the sixth race, sadly, Alan Karwicki died. He died in a traffic accident when his hauler was trying to get him to the sixth race. And also, here is what some other racers had to say about Alan Karwicki's death. Even Bill Racelot had something to say. Rusty Wheelhouse would start at pole position for the sixth race, but Alan Karwicki's team needed someone, and they chose Mark Roadsley. And since Alan Karwicki qualified 10th, Mark Roadsley will start there. And there's his response. Dale Carr is out in lap 240 because Paunchy Wipeout bumped into him. And that's because of Eugene Karbareski! Why? Why are you crashing cars? And also, Dale Earnhardt would almost win the sixth race, but in the end, Rusty Wheelhouse would win the sixth race instead, his second in the season. And also, here's his quote dedicated to Alan Karwicki. His replacement driver, Mark Roadsley, didn't do too badly, finishing 9th. Hall Ingus, last year's champion, would start at pole position for the 7th race, and Mark Roadsley is officially Alan Karwicki's replacement. And also, Claude Scruggs would take them on lap 85, but just give up the lead to Misty Motocross on lap 88. Why? But still, Misty Motocross does lead all the way to lap 107. And Bill Racelot would lead for 201 laps out of the 500. But Rusty Wheelhouse would end up winning the 7th race. The car that came third that race, Chuck Armstrong, will start at pole position for the 8th race. This race was really boring, so Rusty Wheelhouse wins another race in a row. Next race, Dale Earnhardt would start at pole position for the 9th race. But the really bad news is that Chick Hicks and Kyle Traxton are back! And they cause cautions! And now, 27 cars are out because of both of them. Kenny Shiftright somehow came very close to getting to victory lane in the 9th race, but Chick Hicks wins the 9th race! Why? But Dale Earnhardt would start at pole position again for the 10th race. But then, well, he leads for 203 laps out of the 400. And also the King would lead for 178 laps himself. Wait, what? But neither of them win because Clint Shiftright would lead the last 10 laps. And Terry Cabani would be wrecked out on the last lap by Chick Hicks. And Chick doesn't win either, which is actually good. But Chuck Armstrong wins this race, which is nice. He wins the 10th race and also comes pole position again for the 11th race. And then he dominates the race, leading for 368 laps out of the 400, including pole. And also, now he's out on lap 391 because of Dale Earnhardt. Jeff Gorvette would almost win the 11th race, but Dale Earnhardt would end up winning the 11th race instead. But then, Ernie Swerven would start at pole position for the 12th race. And then Darryl Draggart would go airborne and flip on lap 227. And now he's out for the season! Even though Dale Earnhardt didn't do it, he lapped the field on lap 395 and then wins 5 laps later to win the 12th race. Ernie Gearson would start at pole position for the 13th race, but then the King would take the lead and dominate the first 100 laps before Larry Smith would get flipped on lap 100 by Chick Hicks, who would lead all the way to lap 300. How does any car live for 199 laps, especially a car like Chick Hicks? And also, Eugene Karbareski would dominate the last 100 laps. But then Chick Hicks is out, which is actually great. Mark Roseley almost won his very first race, but Eugene Karbareski beat him to it, and even does a pit maneuver on him to win the 13th race. WJ Lights would start at pole position for the 14th race, where Jimmy Roadster would be out on lap 2 because of Chick Hicks! Why? And also, he caused a crash that eliminated 30 more cars! One of the cars that was lucky to avoid the crash was Clint Shiftwright, and he would win the 14th race. A car that didn't even qualify last race, Buck Schooner, would start at pole position for the 15th race. Wait, what? And James Cleanair would flip over 10 times on lap 263. And Ron Blaster would be out for 8 races because of a bad pit exit, since he crashed into the wall. Ward Burnton would somehow come very close to winning the 15th race, but in the end, the King wins the 15th race. Starting at pole position is Jeff Gorvette, who wins his very first pole this race. But Clint Shiftwright would quickly take the lead and lead for 395 laps. Only 5 laps were not led by Clint Shiftwright. One of those laps is the most important, and that is the last one, which means that he wins the 16th race. A few days later, something tragic happens. Sadly, Davey Carlson died. When he was in a helicopter, he failed to land it, and it crashed into the ground, and he died from his injuries a few days later. And here are other racers' reactions to Davey Carlson's death, even from his friend Ernie Swervin and family friend Neil Brackett. Even Dale Earnhardt had something to say. Murray Clutchburn would start at pole position for the 17th race, but then Jeremy Carfield would get flipped again on lap 74 by Kyle Traxon. Why do you flip other cars? And Neil Brackett would lead his final laps, leading from lap 75 to 81. And also, Kevin Phillips would take the lead from him and lead all the way to lap 90, where now he's out for the season because of Chick Hicks, who crashed him way too hard. And also, Jeff Gorvette almost won the 17th race, but in the end, Misty Motorcraft would win the 17th race. She didn't just celebrate her victory, she also said this: Chick Hicks somehow starts pole position for the 18th race and quickly loses the lead to Billy Ford, who would lead for 4 laps, and then Mark Carton would lead another 5. And now all 3 of them are out because of Dale Earnhardt, who would lead for 230 laps out of the 400. How does any car lead for that long? And also, the King only lost by 5 feet to Dale Earnhardt, who wins the 18th race. But the King would get pole position for the 19th race, and now he dominates that race, leading for 394 laps, including pole, which means there were only 6 laps where the King was not in the lead. And of course that means that wait, what? He loses by 3 feet to Andrew Axler, who before winning had not been in the lead at all this race. And Terry Carboni would start at pole position for the 20th race, but then Thomas Tanrev would go airborne on lap 301 because of Chick Hicks, who would lead for 103 laps, the most of any racer. And he does a pit maneuver on Rusty Wheelhouse, which makes him out. And this was done on the last lap. And WJ Lights jumps over Rusty Wheelhouse to win the 20th race. And also, Jerry Tierson is fired because he didn't qualify at all. And Team Combustor replaces him with Donald Morphy, who will hopefully qualify. Johnny Blamer oddly starts at pole position for the 21st race, and now he's out because of Chick X on lap 1, where he causes a 21 car crash, which includes Johnny Blamer. And also, the King takes the lead and wins the 21st race. Bill Racelot would start at pole position for the 22nd race, and now Brian Brooks gets flipped on lap 69, which means now he's out for the season because of Kyle Traxon. Why do you crash other cars? And also, Krusty Rotor will lead for 40 laps. Wait, he's Krusty Rotor. How does he lead 40 laps? And also, Neil Brackett goes into the catch fence, which means now he's out for the season. And Neil Brackett says this to his crew chief. Jeff Burnton also leads 40 laps, which makes no sense, but Ernie Swervin would lead from lap 494 to lap 499, where Dale Earnhardt would pass him, win, actually because he's leading on lap 500, he doesn't win! He loses by 5 inches to Clean Shift Right! He only won by 5 inches! And also, Mark Carton would start at pole position for the 23rd race, but then he would dominate the race, leading for 374 laps! And now he's 1 lap down, lap 387, because of a long pit time. And he's back on lead lap somehow, and then he goes on to get back in the lead, where he will only lose by 4 feet to Andrew Axler, who wins the 23rd race. But then, Bobby Carboni will qualify at pole position for the 24th race. But then, Manny Flywheel and Rusty Cornfield would go airborne because of Chick X. Why? And now he's suspended for 2 races for crashing too many cars. The King luckily wins the 24th race. On the 25th race, Hall Ingus would start at pole position once more, but then Billy Oil Changer would be out on lap 55 because of an engine failure. And Michael Cartrip would actually lead a full 10 laps. The King would almost win the 25th race, but in the end, he loses to Clint Shiftright, who would win the 25th race, winning 1 more race. And also, Ron Blaster would somehow start at pole position for the 26th race, and Craig Shiftright would lead for 176 laps, which is the most out of any car this race. Dale Earnhardt would lead from lap 389 to lap 396. And also, Ron Blaster would only lead for a little bit before Dale Earnhardt did a bump and run on him, leading all the way to virtually the end of the race. But then, on the very last lap, WJ Lights gets on the wall and passes Dale Earnhardt to win the 26th race. Since this video is already getting pretty long, here is the top 20 as of the 26th race.
Remember to press the notifications button, which goes ring, ring, ring after you press it. And lightning strikes back, and that's as if you subscribed, of course. And thank you for watching this entire video.
If you thought races 2 to 26 was interesting, races 27 to 35 will be just as interesting. And stay tuned for the 1993 Piston Cup Races 27 to 35.